Today we're going to be going over hamstrings tightness. Hamstrings tightness occurs because the hip flexor muscle, also known as the psoas, which inserts on the low back, which comes down and around and inserts on the back of the femur, will tighten up and rotate the hips forward. Now what that does is because the hamstrings inserts down here on the ischial tuberosity, it pulls up on the hamstrings, causing a shortening of the muscle. So today we're going to be going over some things that we can do to address hamstrings tightness. The first thing that we're going to do to address hamstrings tightness is we're going to roll out the muscle. So we're going to use a foam roller for this one. And you can start with both legs up, so we're going to support ourselves on our hands. And we're going to be looking for tender spots along the hamstrings. So if you need more pressure, you can take one leg and place it over the other, and we'd obviously be doing this one leg at a time. But what we're doing is while we're rolling and we're looking for these tender spots, we're going to stop over that tender spot. We're going to hold it for 30 seconds to a minute. This is going to help elicit a relaxation of the muscle. Next, I'm going to go over how to roll out the proximal hamstrings, or the part of the hamstrings that's closest to the hip. So what you're going to do is you're going to find the hip bone, which is that bony part of the hip that you can feel underneath the glute muscle. What we're going to do is we're going to take a lacrosse ball and we're basically just going to sit on it. We're going to use our hands and our feet to ease our body weight over the lacrosse ball. And you might feel a little bit of tenderness with this. As with any other rolling out technique, keep your discomfort at about a 3 to a 4 out of 10. We're going to hold and maintain this for about 30 to 60 seconds. You can even do some gentle back and forth motions or side to side motions to try and release the muscle depending on where the fibers or in which direction they got bundled up in. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to stretch out the hamstrings. And for that, we're going to be using a stretch strap. There's going to be two different ways we're going to go over. The first one is we're going to stretch the distal hamstrings, or the hamstrings which is closer to the knee, or the half of the hamstrings is closer to the knee. And what we're going to do is we're going to keep that knee nice and straight. We're going to flatten the low back onto the floor, and then we're going to bring the leg up until we feel a stretch. And you might feel this on that part of the hamstrings closer to the knee. You might even feel it over the knee. Typically, if you're feeling a stretch over the knee or a burning sensation, that indicates that there might be a nerve entrapment. And we'll go over that later in the video on what we can do to floss that nerve and free it. Now, once we're done holding this stretch for about 60 seconds, we're going to switch over and we're going to stretch the part of the hamstrings that's closer to the hip itself, so that proximal hamstring. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep the knee bent. We're going to bring our thigh as close to our body as we can, and then we're going to attempt to straighten the knee until we feel a stretch higher up on the hamstrings. And again, we're going to hold this stretch for 30 to 60 seconds. So if you're performing a hamstring stretch and you notice a burning sensation at the back of the knee, that may be an indication of a nerve entrapment. So what we're going to do is called a nerve floss. In order to do that, we're going to start off against the wall with our butt as close to the wall as we can and our legs out straight. And what we're going to do is we're going to point the toes down and bring the head down with the toes, and then bring the toes up and bring the head up. And what we're doing is we're taking that nerve line that runs all the way onto the bottom of the feet, all the way up the back and up towards the back of the head, and we're just moving that line. So we're trying to floss and free that trapped nerve. And you'll do this for about 2 minutes. Or you can do this until you're not feeling that burning sensation behind the knees anymore. Once you're done with this, go back to your stretch, and you may notice that now you'll be feeling more of a stretch on the back of the hamstrings rather than that burning sensation behind the knee.